Hi, John and Leah.
Hello,
Hey,
Joe.
Rachel.
Hey,
Hi.
how are you guys?
Doing well.
Good.
Oh,
Good. Very good to see you.
Good to see you
Yes, it's been a
too.
long time.
It has. Where are you right now? Where are we talking to you from?
We're at Valley Light. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Good. Well, we decided we were going to record these to send them out to our donors. That way people can watch them at their on their own time frame and their own convenience. So given the schedules out there, as we've tried to find out the best time to do these that seem to make the most sense and allow people to watch them at the time that worked best for them. So Rachel's going to be recording this. So I'll kind of just start us off with just a welcome here, and then hand it over to Rachel to lead the call and the conversation. So is everybody good? Does that sound good? Any questions before we start? Okay.
Oh, I just wanted to say hi. I
Sounds
don't think
good.
I've met John and Leah yet. Actually, like met them. I'm Mallory. I'm on the team with Rachel and Naomi. So it's nice to meet you both.
Nice
Yes,
to
we
meet
have
you
not met
too.
before.
Yeah.
Wonderful to meet you.
No,
Yeah.
Thank
I'm
you.
so sorry.
no. I
I
just wanted
guess,
to say
I
hi.
mean, you all have met in my head. So
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So, so I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but it's so nice to be able to connect you here. So I know you both have heard about each other. So nice to now all
Yeah.
be working together in this way. So we just thank you both for making the time for this call. We love the opportunity both to see your faces and to be able to just let you know that we're thinking about you, and to be able to hear how things are going. You send us reports regularly, and we love reading those, and those are helpful, but nothing's quite the same as talking. I would say face to face, but this is probably as close to face as we can get. So, and we always love the opportunity to be able to give our partners the chance to see you as well, and to hear your story and what you're doing in your own voice. So, thanks so much. I know it's much later in the day for you guys than it is for us. So, thanks for making the time. That would be hard for me to do in the evening with 5 kids. You have about 30, so so I know that can't be easy. So thank you so much. And Rachel, why don't you get us started here?
sure. Awesome. Oh, well, so good to see you guys again. Are you in your apartment, or are you downstairs
We are in my office.
in your office? Okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the new home. Lovely. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so cool. Can you
Yeah.
guys just paint the picture for us of kind of general, but broadly, like life in Kenya, and then kind of more specifically, how and why children are orphaned or abandoned in that context, like what that looks like there?
Well, there are many reasons why children are orphaned here, and why so many of them continue to suffer. The main reason why this idea came to our mind, it actually came to Leah's mind before it ever came to my mind, was because of the HIV/AIDS issue. That was a very big problem here for a lot of young parents. There were many who were dying and leaving their children with no one to attend to them. And at that time, we were young, in our teens here in Kenya. And Leah saw that. She had grown up she grew up in a place where, before that, she lived in a place where almost all the families were intact and they didn't have these kind of issues. But then her family moved to this town, to Maimahiu, and she witnessed that. And she wanted to find some way to help the kids. She'll tell you more about that. But so that's one of the this that one that was the immediate thing that got this ball rolling for us. But then we've had many decades of corruption and bad governance, very high levels of unemployment, and breakdown in morality and all that. And so we're still getting a lot of babies abandoned. That's actually increasing, not decreasing. And also even child trafficking is a major issue here. Given the fact that we seem to be getting worse, not better, economically and morally and in all those ways, it seems like the problem is going to continue to get worse, not better. At some point, Leah can tell you, can talk about how this idea came to her mind and how Validate itself got started.
Leah, do you want to do that now? Do you want to tell us how it came?
Sure, let's do. Yeah. So anyway, I grew up in a different town, not here in my Mahio. And when my parents moved to my Mahio, I moved with them and started getting to know people here. And like John said, AIDS was a big thing, and I was still in college, so I'd come during the vacation, meet people, become friends with them, go back to school. And in the 4 years that I was in college, I lost quite a few friends to HIV/AIDS. And then I'd see all these kids that they were living and others that I had come to know, different families with these young kids. I could see they needed help. The elderly grandparents did not know, how to do
Didn't have the means.
to help the little ones. And so I approached my dad and I said, Dad, I want to do something for these kids that I'm seeing here that need a lot of help. For an African man at that point, it was a strange question for him because first of all, I was not entitled to any land in his family because girls normally inherit where they go get married. But my dad, he loved the Lord so much, and he said, I can give you a piece. He cut a piece of his land, and he said, if you want to do the school here, the home for the kids, you can do it here. And so he gave me that deed. He changed his name from the deed and gave it to me. A very strange thing for an African man to do at that point. And I'm forever grateful for that. So he and my mom both came on board with me and said, we can do this. But at the same time, I got an opportunity to be able to come to the US and further my studies. And so it was during that time. So I told them, okay, thank you. But I left because I knew there wasn't enough time for me to be able to get started. But that story stuck with me. And I told everyone I saw I met in the US, I told them that the kids in my community are struggling, are suffering, and we need to build a school for them where we can get them together and give them an education and help them with many other ways. And so not knowing, a family had me tell that story many times in Canada because that's where I landed when I left Kenya. I went to Briarcrest schools. And they told me after it was after how many years? After I had met John, I had shared with them when I lived there in Canada. But after that, I left Canada. I came to the US. I went to school, and I met John there, and we got married, and we moved to California. So this was many years later. They call me one night, and they say, there actually was a lady. Her name is Valine. She says, that dream that you told us about, the kids in your community need help, they need a place where they can live and go to school. We heard you and we want to help you. And I literally just gave the phone to John because after these many years, I had been telling the Lord the same thing. And so I gave John the phone because it was like too good to be true, God answered the prayer. And so she talked to John and said the same thing she had told me. She said, we have raised some money and we want to give it to you to get started with the home. And that was the beginning of Very Light Home. So they sent us a gift. And at the same time, we got connected with the Ministry of Love is Zacharias, and that's how it all got rolling. We got to meet Naomi, and she got us situated. We bought property, a piece of land that my parents were also using for a business that was already, we had a building, everything was all set. And so we brought in our first kids on it was July 31st, 2011. We got our first 6 kids. And those first 6 kids today are finishing up their college education. We have a nurse, a teacher, some in the hospitality industry. Yeah, so we are so grateful to God that that started that way. Our friends in Canada, the Ministry of Wellspring that took us on and up to where we are today, we really want to thank God for that.
So at the time Leah got that phone call, I had just applied to RZIM, and when she got the call, she dropped the phone, and I picked it up from the floor, and I introduced myself. And the lady said, "We have saved $100,000 for you to get the orphanage started, and all we need is your bank information." And I said to her, "You can't do that. You cannot send that kind of money to her. Our bank account had never seen more than $400." And I said,
Yeah.
it would crash if you do that. So we I had an appointment with your dad, Naomi, in Anaheim, California. And when I met with him, we told him what we were planning to do, and he said we are just actually, my daughter is doing exactly what you're talking about, and so she gave us your card, and we contacted you, and so we called this family in Canada and asked them to send the money to Wellspring, so Wellspring could help guide us, because we had never done anything like that before. So that's how all this got started, and of course. So there was the money to purchase the property, and then to do all the remodeling and getting the kids in. The money we got was enough to purchase it, but then there was a lot more that was needed, and so raising funds would have been a daunting task for us. But Wellspring stepped in at that point, and it was we the best days of our lives have always been with Wellspring, and then now with that ladder. We had no idea what we were doing then, but we are so grateful that we got all the guidance that we needed to make it work.
Incredible. I mean, what a story. There's just so much in there. Even like the fact that it was those friends that reached out to you that kind of, I don't want to say re-sparked the dream, because the dream didn't go away, but really enabled it to move forward. How long had you been in the States? Or I guess you started in Canada, but how long had it been since you had left Kenya to when they called you? Like, how long had that dream just kind of been on hold?
It was more than 8 years,
8 years, yeah.
maybe 9 years, because when we came to the US, Leah was in Canada for 1 year, and then she came to the US. We met in Pennsylvania. Neither of us had been back to Kenya for almost 10 years. So we were in the US with that. We didn't see our family members
for 10 years.
For that long. Because and in those days there was no Zoom, there was no FaceTime. Not even cell phones. So we would tell people who had the phone service in their homes, we would call them and tell them, "Can you see if you can find somebody from my family to come to your house so we can talk to them?" So it was we were very engaged in other ways and trying to make our own lives work. But yes, that dream was on hold, but not in the hearts and minds of that family. They had been saving money that whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. Really.
And where were they based again?
They are based in, they're still there in Estevan, in Saskatchewan.
Okay.
Yeah, they still live there. We keep in touch with them.
I know there were lots and lots and lots of people who used to come to Founders, but we did introduce them to you, Naomi, and we spent some time with them. There's the Clearwaters. You met if you don't
Yes.
remember them, that's fine,
Yeah.
because you had met
Yeah,
so many
many
people at the
people.
same
Yeah.
time.
No,
Yeah.
I do. And I remember their name very well. That's
Yeah.
right. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard for me to believe that it was 2011 when you all brought the first kids home, which it's putting the timetable together in my mind too. And that was July 2011, and my first son was born in June, the end of June 2011. So like all
Yeah.
this kind of came together right around the same time there, and I'm still trying to process the fact that it's 2025 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sent Jeanette to come and represent
Yeah.
Wellspring.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's good at that. She did a good job with that. So
Yeah,
She
she
did.
did.
She
Yeah.
did.
yeah. So and we've enjoyed the opportunity to say it's a special one for, I mean, all of the programs that we support are near and dear to us. Yours was something personal for us in a particular way because we were working alongside each other in a unique way with Dialite, and seeing you build it from the ground up. And by ground, I guess I mean even more like roots up, because it was from the dream stage
Yeah.
Yeah.
and growing it.
Yeah.
And so it's really been amazing to get to witness that, and knowing all that you confronted along the way. As you said, like it was this huge answer to prayer to get the land, but then that was the beginning, right? And the process
Yeah.
of doing of building on it and doing the construction, and the hurdles that came up in both countries for both land and building. It hasn't been an easy dream for you both
No,
at
it
the beginning, but I guess the good ones never are. So
It was actually a really good thing that we had no idea what it takes to run an orphanage in the
Yeah.
beginning. Because maybe if we did, we never would have done it.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a
But
beauty
for
sometimes in the
the
innocence.
stories, yeah, for all the kids that have passed through our hands, I really would do it again, even if it was, yeah, just to knowing, how the Lord has changed their lives, I would do it again. Yeah. Mhm.
And you said those first 6 are all finishing college now. Is that right?
They're in their
Yeah.
final year of college, all of them.
Amazing. You must be so proud. It's
We
really
are, yeah, it's surreal to see that
Mm.
they when they come here and they're talking to the other kids and encouraging them and inspiring them. And so they tell them, being that if we told them, the kids, they might hear it and goes in one ear and out the other. When they hear those same things from
Mhm.
their older siblings, it sticks. And
Yeah.
so it's good to hear. It's good to see that. And actually, some of the kids that were a huge concern for us. There was one kid who was very, very rude and also very difficult to I don't want to say control, but we were concerned about him. But now he's one of the best young men anybody would ever want to meet. He's halfway through his training as a nurse, and everybody, the doctors, the patients, everybody loves him, and he's doing a really good job. And he's in the best nursing program in the country. And just to see him flourish and do so well. And he's in Kijabi, up the hill from Maima Hill. And so on Sundays we have a Bible program for kids where we get about 100 kids, and it's intensive Bible study. They have workbooks that they fill out during the week, and then we go through that on Sunday. And he comes every Sunday and helps guide the kids through the program and Bible study and all that. It's just such a huge blessing to see that happening, especially when we remember where he came from and how hopeless his life looked when he came to us.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really amazing. Oh, how many children are currently in the home?
Right now at the home, we have 26.
Okay.
Because the older ones are in college, so they don't live here. We have one that's doing her internship, that's just hanging out here and going to work every morning and coming back. But all the others are ways from us. So, but we have 26 of the younger ones here with us.
Can you tell us just what life is like in the home? Like what the daily schedule is like for the kids?
Yeah, actually, Very Light is a home like any other home, actually. It's just that it's a bigger family. But on weekdays, our day starts early. The kids get up and are ready to leave in our school bus by 6:10. So they get on the bus and they will go picking up other kids on the way. The bus, this is the last stop, so this is the first stop for the bus. And so they will pick up other kids, and by 7:30, they'll be sitting in their class, ready to start school. So a school day ends up at around 4 o'clock. They come home. They will do their homework. First of all, once that's done, then they will have like a snack. We will then take them, they will go, the little ones will go have a shower. And then it's just enough time for them to take a shower and then come and sit down for dinner. After dinner, we always do a devotional every evening. And after the devotional, the little kids will go to bed. By that time is around 7-ish. 7 p.m. and the older ones will sit down and do their homework at that time and anything else that they need to do. Then on weekends, we normally just take it easy. They get up around 8-ish. That's when they do breakfast. And then they have chores. Everyone has a chore, even you. So they will either help in the kitchen. Sometimes they will help the uncles that are working outside. Others will take care of the babies that we have. Others will work with the aunties in cleaning the house. So there's always some chores that they will do. For the girls, we do have a lady that comes and does hair for them. So that that happens on Saturday. And then they will get ready for their Bible study, which happens on Sunday. And then it's evening. Sometimes they do hike. They will do hikes around the community. We have a mountain here called Longanot, or they will hike from Mai Mahiu to our house in Kijabi also. So they do fun stuff like that. Like tomorrow, we have a fun day planned. So the guys, all the boys in the home, the uncles, all of them, the chefs, everyone is going all the way to Kijabi, and all the girls are staying. So there'll be a boys' day out and a girls' day out. So stuff like that happens here quite a bit. So it's always fun. It's always fun.
Yeah,
I love
the goal of that is to give them the opportunity to ask any questions they might have about anything,
Yeah.
not hold back. So it's always pray for me, because usually the questions come.
You don't know what's coming tomorrow. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's tomorrow. We're doing that tomorrow.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, on my visits, I've always just like one of the key things I think I always take away is that it feels so much like a home and a family. And it is. I mean, there's, the pictures of the kids on the wall, and even like in your monthly reports when you always send like whose birthday it was that month and the birthday celebrations. And it just really does feel like a family. And like, I guess the question of that is how is that? Like, is that difficult to foster? Also, obviously, all of these kids are coming with their own stories and their own trauma. So how do you navigate that and still kind of keep that family feel?
Well, we have kind of become used to it, so we know what to expect. By now we know the issue that might come up. We have moments of loss of joy. We have moments where we have to take somebody to the hospital. One of our girls is going through that right now. And so we just take things as they come. And when there's a new baby abandoned somewhere, our kids know about that, and we would tell them, we'll pray for the, even before we pick up the baby, we'll pray with whoever happens to be here. And so there's that joy and anticipation that always accompanies those moments. So we try to let them see that life is sometimes present, sometimes it's not present, and we don't want to shield them too much from the reality, because they are going to have to face it someday. So we try very hard to talk to them very openly about decisions that they make, especially the older boys and girls. We have had some sad cases with some of our kids where they have made bad decisions, especially now that our government is pushing us really hard, because they are determined to shut down every last orphanage in the country by 2032. So because of that, they have been pushing us very hard to get the kids maybe fostered, adopted in other homes and all that. That's why we have a low. We would have about maybe 39 kids, but our staff members, some of our staff members have taken some of the kids to foster them in preparation for what the government might do, because they could come and pick up the kids and send them to places that we don't know. I got a call once from a high-ranking government official in the children's department, and he said to me, "I'm coming tomorrow morning to pick up so and so." He named the kid, and I said to him, "No, you're not doing that." He said, "Excuse me?" I said, "You can't." I said, "You cannot do that." He said, "What do you mean?" He said, there's some powerful people in the government who are looking for a little girl, and we're coming for that. This. I said, "No, you cannot do that." He said, "Explain to me why you think I cannot do that." I said, "This is the only home this kid knows. We are her family. If you just come and pick her up and take her to some other family without any preparation, what do you think will go on in her mind?" And so he started to see the sense in what I was saying. And after about 45 minutes on the phone, he decided not to. He didn't do that. But because of this decision that the government is making, this is a very unsettling time for all of us at the home. So we are talking about how we can make sure that the kids that we have, the kids that we know, don't end up in random places out there. So we're dealing with that right now. And so we explain these things to the older kids. And so through the tough times, through the good times, we navigate all of it together as a family. And maybe we don't know whether that's the best way to do it, but that's what we're doing. We do consult with some professional counselors on a regular basis. We have 2 who are now working with us. We had a donor give us some funding to have them, because of the floods and all that, and all these things that are going on with government regulations. We needed somebody here to help us navigate through all of that. So we have 2 counselors that are with us until
April.
Until April, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. What is the, I don't want to say this like respectfully, but what is the reason for the wanting to close all the children's homes? Like what's the mindset behind that?
This is actually being pushed by the UN, not just the Kenyan government. And they started in South America, and now they are in Africa. And their justification for it is that there was a study that was done that followed orphaned children, kids who were adopted from orphanages throughout their lives. And the conclusion was none of those kids did well later in life. And so they decided that a child is safer in a home, even a dysfunctional home, than in any institution. And so they do not want any kid in an institution. It's actually a very, very big worldwide movement that's being pushed very hard by some very big names in the US, even pastors and everybody. So they're fighting against that, against having kids in institutions. I read through the act and the study that led to those decisions, and every one of those, everything they quote is from Romania and Russia, 1989. And so those are the kids that were followed up. And as you know, in 1989, Romania fell, and it was opened up to the world. And when people went there, they found kids who were in orphanages that were like torture chambers. Those kids were not touched by anybody. They were not fed enough. They'll be in their own field for days on end. And so those are the kids they followed. There have been many other studies. The biggest one was done by Duke University. And that study showed there's no difference between a kid growing up in a good home and a kid growing up in a good orphanage. No difference at all. And actually, in some metrics, the kids growing up in orphanages did better. Because they were used to a structure in life from the time they were young. And so there's really zero justification for this. There are people who speculate that there are people who do very well financially when kids are suffering. And so it's, I hate to think that's the case, but I do not see any other explanation, because I can understand how the government would ignore, or the UN would ignore those other studies and lots of other studies that disconfirm the conclusion that they came to.
Well, so I didn't know that was the reason, and that is really interesting, because I think even in some of the organizations or individuals that I have been kind of working personally with on the US side, the US legal system with child care and custody and foster care has adopted that philosophy too. And I didn't realize the connection of that, but the number of times I have now heard them say, like, it's the new philosophy, the new belief that a child is better, like in a dysfunctional home or with a dysfunctional parent, that sometimes in a dysfunctional home or dysfunctional parent is better than none at all. Which, and then when you ask follow-up questions though, but what about the, the emotional harm that happens, the physical harm, the mental harm that happens because of the way they are implementing this new philosophy, and nobody has answers for that. And then it was explained to me too that the legal system and the child welfare system aren't on the same page. So there's conflict. So I didn't realize that. That's really interesting. It explains a lot. And I think as much as our circumstances are different here, I think that's actually helpful for people to understand, because it is relatable in the sense that that's happening in our country too, with the way children in these vulnerable situations are being seen in that particular way. So how are you guys, you said you're just kind of, you're taking it one day at a time, and that makes sense. And I don't know what else you can do, but how are you all approaching it, even in your minds, knowing that there's this date that's been put out there in the future? Are you just still kind of praying and hoping that changes directions, and you hope for a miracle, and you just plan on doing what you're doing as long as you can do it? Or how are you approaching that personally?
We are encouraging people that we know to volunteer to become the foster parents once the government says this must be done. Okay. And we have several people who are willing to do that. So what we'll do, we will support the kids in those homes. So we'll continue to help kids and support them, but we want them to be in homes where we can be able to do follow-up. So we'll keep some of our staff, like the social worker and the manager and all, so the key staff members, so they can help us with follow-up. Because like I said, we have more and more kids being abandoned. It's not that they have solved the problem of abandonment. That's still going on. And then we have a lot of street kids in Kenya. That number is also increasing. And so for the life of me, I can't figure out why they would not help those first who are out on the streets, but they're going after kids already in homes and that are doing well. So we are strategizing on that and just trying to encourage as many people as possible that we know to be prepared to volunteer as foster kids for our kids. And some of our staff members have done that already.
Because we could keep them. I could keep each one of those kids that we have, but the government says even if you foster, you can only foster 4 kids.
Okay.
Nobody can foster more than 4 kids. So that's where we have the dilemma that we cannot be able to foster more than 4.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's where we are with that.
Rachel, I don't want to interrupt your flow, but if I can interject a question here, just because on the heels of this, it seems to fit here. And I thought of you guys yesterday. I have been listening to this, Rachel and Mallory have heard me refer to it, but this podcast that Anderson Cooper is doing on grief. But the one that I was listening to most recently is on a woman from Detroit. She lost a 2-year-old son there in Detroit, and she lost, I think her son was in his 20s when he was shot and killed, and she lost a stepson when he was 30 and he was murdered as well. And so she was talking about the grief of that, but she lived in what she described as it had once been a really beautiful part of town and had become much more unsafe. And she said it was considered like the hood, and people were wanting to leave the hood. And she said, I didn't want to leave my home, but I wanted to take, this grief that I had and try to kind of turn it into something. So in that area, she's built a park that's named after one of her sons, and she was able to purchase some land. They did fundraisers to purchase land, and there's like the homework house where kids can come for after school, tutoring and things like that. So anyway, she was talking in detail about that, but she made the statement because he asked her how she had kind of handled her grief, and she said basically like you don't handle it. She said, I live with it. I'll live with it every day for the rest of my life. And she said, everything I'm doing in every moment is grieving. And he said, what do you mean by that? And she said, well, building the park, building the home, helping the kids, I'm grieving. It's actively grieving. It's just the beautiful side of grief. And I thought of you guys when I was hearing her as she kind of articulated and expanded on that a little bit, because this road for you has actually been filled with grief, both for you with what the stories that that have happened from the children that you're bringing into your home, as well as your own lives. You've faced a lot of grief, like along this path. Can you talk a little bit about that, how that has, I guess, just that idea of that I would imagine that you could relate to that what you are doing every day is in a sense actively grieving. It's just that you are using that grief to somehow bring something beautiful out of life or contribute beauty into the life that's around you. But how do you hold those two things? I mean, I guess, would you agree with that? And how do you feel like that has played out for you in the story, both for you personally, but specifically as it relates to Valley Light?
Well, I think there's a lot to life that is like that. Grief in life is way too common, and if somebody hasn't gone through it yet, unfortunately, it's coming because none of us seem to be able to escape it. For the most part, at Valley Light, it's a really, really happy place. We love just being with the kids and playing soccer with them. I can't run as fast as anymore, and so they run circles around me now. But the grief part for us is really caused by what the government is forcing us to do. When the kids hit 18, we had constructed transitional houses for the girls and for the boys, two separate places. And we were hoping that the kids can continue to go to college and get some training and then be able to come back and have a home that they could come back to. But the government said they cannot live in those transitional houses. They must be out of the compound. And if any kid has a known relative, you must send that kid to the relative, no matter the conditions of the home that you're sending them to. So and they check up on us. And they check up with the people, with the relatives, the known relative. How even if it's as a grandmother who really cannot take care of the kid. So we had two girls here who are sisters, and nobody knew who the relatives were, who the parents were, because they were abandoned as kids, as babies. So we raised them. When they hit 18, before they hit 18, their mother showed up with a letter from the government saying that she was now ready to take care of them. Well, she wasn't. She didn't even have a home. She works in a bar, and she has many other kids in orphanages, and she is very, very, very abusive. But we were told that's none of our business. We had to send these girls. Yeah, so we did. And one of them now has a baby, and the other one they dropped out of school. They have serious issues. These are kids that we raised, and it's really heartbreaking for us to witness this, because it's something we could have done something about, but our hands are tied. We really cannot be able to help. And so the kids, they made the decision to not do well in school, not to stay in school and all that. But all that happened because of the environment that the government placed them in. So when we see things like that happening, and there are others who are, when they hit 18 and they have to leave very late, this is happening to us now. We are dreading those moments for every one of our kids. So we do get to the point where the grief can feel, the reality of that happening can feel unbearable, because you can handle it, you can do something about it, but the government won't let you do it. So how do we handle that? It's really, I like the answer, I like the response, that we live with it. We cannot get rid of it. I remember a long time, Naomi, asked you how you could go to so many places with so many hurting people and still continue to smile and to do what you did, speaking and all that. And I'll never forget your answer. You said to me, when I was young, I had a lot of joy in my life and hardly any sorrow, any pain. But he said, now I still have joy, but I also have a lot of sorrow in my life. And unfortunately, there has been more since you gave that answer to me. And you said, now I live with, still have the happiness, but I also live with a type of sorrow that I know I'll never be able to get rid of until Jesus comes back. And so we are constantly heartbroken about what's happening. Leah and I pleaded and begged to have some time with our member of parliament, which is a difficult thing to do, to get an appointment with them. But we managed, and she gave us 3 hours. So we walked her through all those studies from Romania. We told her about the statistics, the suffering that the kids go through the foster care system in the US, that 80% of the children in the foster care system experience a staggering number of problems throughout their lives, including mental illness, criminal activities, homelessness, inability to finish school, and many, many others. And an astounding number of children in the foster care system in the US go missing every year, and then many of them are never found. And I said, the US has the money to make this system work, but it's not working there. What makes you think you can make it work here when we are depending on money that's donated by well-wishers from outside the country? And by the time we finished, she said, we never should have voted for this law. She said, if you can find a lawyer who is willing to comb through this document and come up with an amendment that I can take to Parliament, I'll do everything I can to make sure that we have an amendment to keep homes like yours open. But guess what? The lawyers don't want to do that. We've talked to many lawyers here, they don't want to do it. I don't think they don't want to be the ones who they don't want to be the target of the government, but they're the ones who put all this together. So it's so frustrating to see what needs to be done, to be able to do it, and then see people who are just pushing you to do the opposite. Yeah, so we live with it, and sometimes it consumes us. Sometimes the pain is just so much when we have to submit some things or let a kid go. But I don't know if there's a way to not live with that pain, especially when you know what's happening in our world. I've been thinking lately, I'm amazed at God's mercy, because the more I understand about all that's going on, the more I'm amazed that God hasn't just folded everything together so that we can just get it over with and have the problem solved. But as long as He allows us, we do what we can, and we just keep taking that pain to Him. I don't know whether Leah has anything to add to that, because she deals with it a lot more visibly as a mom, especially with the girls.
It's really, you really live with it, because it's part of who you are. It's part of what you do. It's intertwined in your life. And so you cannot get away from it. But in a way, it also gives you the strength to keep going, because you see what the Lord has been able to accomplish, and that gives you even more hope to keep maybe fighting for the children, or to keep going when you see things are not going the right way. So we live with it, and we learn also from it. It makes us stronger, but it's not easy. It's not easy.
So what would you say to the person who is quietly thinking, or might even say to you, what's even the point then if you have to watch two girls that you have raised and loved and cared for and protected and taught, and then something out of your hands removes them, and now you see them struggling, and it has hurt them. When you know that those decisions can be made that are out of your control, what is it that keeps you doing what you can do until that happens?
There are others that are still coming up and growing. Those ones keep you going, because then you cannot lose hope, because those ones have not turned out the way you wanted. But you also keep reaching out. Like I reach out to them every so often. I ask, how are you doing? How is the baby? How can we help you? I say, can you come, and just see us? Just yesterday, I talked to the one girl that has a baby. I said, how are you doing? And we talked, and she said, I'm doing well. I say, come. And she says, I'll be there on Saturday. So we don't let them go. We still reach out to them, because I wouldn't do that even if it was a child that I got, my biological child. I would do the same. And these kids are ours. They really are our kids. And so we reach out to them, and we keep pointing them to the right way that they should go. We point them to Jesus. We tell them, they are loved, they are cared for, they are precious in His eyes. And in one way or the other, they do get the message, and they have the message in them. They know that the Lord is special, and they are special to the Lord. Yeah. So, yeah.
As you were saying that's what I was thinking. Just like, you've given them something incredible that won't go away, regardless of, what decisions they make. Even in this season, it's there. They know that they are deeply loved and cherished. And that's an incredible gift to give someone. We're kind of coming up close to the end of our time, but I did want to, Jeanette is here. Hi, Jeanette. I wanted to give you the chance, Jeanette, if you had any questions that you wanted to ask, not to put you on the spot, but just to open it up if you had any questions, or Mallory, you as well. But before I did that, I did want to ask John and Leah if there's anything, actually all of us here kind of have an opportunity to have spent time with you and know you. But for those who might watch this call later, is there any just like takeaway that you wish that they could see or know about what life is like at Valley Light? You've given much already, but
despite all the challenges and all the things that we're dealing with, I think what I would wish that our supporters would know is the difference that their support makes to the lives of so many. We have talked about a couple of girls who've gone through a lot, and we are trying to walk that journey with them. But there are many others that are huge, whose stories are a huge success, and they're doing really well. And when we remember where we got them from, and then seeing them today, it's like night and day. Actually, when we brought the very, very first kids to Valley Light, Jeanette was there. She saw them, and we have obviously picked up. We've had maybe 49 kids total, and we've had over 80 kids. Because normally when we bring a kid to Valley Light, we don't automatically assume the kid needs a home and is going to be here for the rest of his or her life, because sometimes we find the relatives, believe it or not, it's a lost child, and we find the relatives and we're able to reunite them with the relatives. So if we count all the kids who've gone through the home, it will be close to 80, 90. So we've hosted many children here, but the ones that end up being here are the ones who have no one who can take care of them, no relative who is able to take care of them, and both parents have to be deceased, unless of course the child was abandoned somewhere and nobody knows who the relatives are. We picked up one of the kids who was thrown away behind the old place, our old orphanage, in a dark alley, and somebody on his motorcycle saw a bundle there and went to see what it was and found out it was a baby. So we happened to be in Nairobi visiting some friends, Rod and Mary, who some of you know. So we were at their house that night. At 9 p.m. we got a phone call, and Leah's niece said, somebody just told me they found a baby behind your orphanage. So we sent our security guys there and some of our staff members to go back there and pick up the baby. So they did. They brought the baby to the living room. So we asked, Leah was talking to Cece. Cece is from Ohio, and she happened to be there. So Leah is on the phone with Cece, and she says, "Can tell me about, did you get the baby?" "Yes." "How is the baby doing?" No answer. And so Leah asked, "Is it a boy or a girl?" And Cece said, "It's a girl." "So is she okay?" Again, no answer. So I picked up the phone and said, "Is she alive?" And Cece says, "We don't know." So I gave the phone to Mary. Mary is a pediatrician. I said, "Can you please help them figure this out?" So Mary told them what to do, and it turned out the baby was alive. She was barely alive. They took her to a clinic, and then she went to the hospital, and we reported to the police. She was in the hospital for 2 weeks. And now she is such a happy, bubbly, smart kid. She was first in her class just last week, and she knows so many things and is so helpful in so many different ways. So when we see that and we remember where these and almost all of them have stories like that. When we see that and we remember how they were when they came here, we wish all of our supporters could see that firsthand, just see the change. Of course, they can't, because like if they saw this girl today, they would never imagine that that's the condition she was in. But that's my biggest. That's why we encourage people to come and just come visit us, come see what we are doing, come see what's going on, because we know it's not. When we started, we thought it was our responsibility, and our vision and our calling. We just realized, we came to realize it wasn't. We are just a link in a long chain that God has put together to make all of it work. We just happen to be able to witness the whole thing unfolding right before our eyes. And that's what I wish we could share more clearly with our supporters.
Yeah.
Beautiful story. You're not just a link. I know the analogy, but you're a very important link and obedient and willing to do it. And we're so honored to be able to support you guys. It's the small part that we do. I mean, you're just truly dear friends, but just people that we deeply, deeply respect. And it's an honor for us to be able to come alongside you. Thank you for your time today.